It's a big year for Beamer Ball in Columbia, South Carolina, and these are my best and worst case scenarios for the South Carolina Gamecocks in the 2024 college football season. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well, so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily: iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. The following is brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Guys, head over to mybookie.ag and use the promo code SECU at sign up to receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $1,000. Guys, anything you can think of, you can bet on it over at MyBookie, whether it's props, it's parlays, it's totals, it's spreads, what have you. And I know right now we're in sort of a lull with college sports, but they still have college baseball. We got the NBA playoffs going on. We got MLB. Hey, it's never too early to throw money on props, on futures, win totals, Heisman Trophy odds, whatever it might be, guys. They've got all that and more at MyBookie. Also, guys, the MyBookie Casino. I've spent some time in there playing a little blackjack, playing a little poker. They got slots. They got every casino game you can think of. They got games I've never even heard of before. So, our friends at MyBookie, guys, the way to go, MyBookie.ag, promo code SECU at sign up, 100% deposit match of up to $1,000. And guys, with MyBookie, don't forget, you can bet anything, anytime, and anywhere only at MyBookie. A pivotal year for Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks awaits this season, and these are my best and worst case scenarios for South Carolina football this season. Guys, let me preface by saying this. Best case, worst case. These are not predictions. These are simply what's the ceiling and what's the floor of the football team, in my opinion. Also, guys, the way that we figure this out, it's not best case 12-0, worst case 12-0, or excuse me, 0-12. It's realistic best case and worst case. So every single football team has a number of questions, right? The best case is assuming the majority of the questions work out in the positive. The worst case is assuming the majority of the questions work out in the negative. So with that being said, guys, let's pull up South Carolina's 2024 schedule. And the first thing that jumps out, of course, you open up with ODU at home in the season opener, right? You got a brand new quarterback in Lenora Sellers. His first SEC game at Kentucky, a pivotal football game for this program and for this team and setting the tone for the 2024 season, right? You've won, 2 or 3 straight in this series. South Carolina will need to win that one. You get LSU at home, Akron and non-conference. You got Ole Miss. You got at Bama, at Oklahoma, Texas A&M. This is a tough schedule. This is one of the tougher schedules in the SEC. Gamecock fans are used to hearing that. At Vandy should be a layup. You get Missouri at home. Streak's got to end at some point, right? You get Wofford at home and then at Clemson in the rivalry game matchup. Guys, let's start with the best case scenario. And again, you got a brand new starting quarterback in Lenora Sellers who takes over for Spencer Rattler. The big question all offseason is, are you going to get the same amount of production from him as you did from Rattler? Because as bad as the record was last year, Spencer Rattler put this team on his back and did everything he could to will them to victory on a weekly basis. But as important as Lenora Sellers is, and he's wildly important, don't get me wrong, how far does the offensive line come? That's the big question. Is there a running game to help support a young quarterback? Best case scenario would be assuming the offensive line has taken major steps forward. Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway, the rest of that running back room are at minimum serviceable. Let's call them above average, right? Rocket Sanders gets closer to that 2022 form. He's one of the SEC's running backs. Maybe he challenges to rush for 1,000 yards. At the wide receiver position, maybe Nick Harbor takes that next step. There's some young guys in that room that emerge. Maybe a Joshua Simon at tight end breaks out and has a big season. And on the defensive side, best case, we see South Carolina pick up where they left off the end of last season, because the defense last year, guys, for 90% of the season was abysmal. Last couple games, Kentucky, Clemson, you saw that defense playing much better. Maybe they stick with a 3-3-5. Maybe they don't, but the defense comes along. Some of that new transfer portal talent in the front seven is an upgrade. The secondary gets back to playing the way that you would expect guys like Nick Emanwari and DQ Smith to play, and the defense takes a step forward. With all of that being said, my best case scenario for South Carolina in 2024 is 7-5. Guys, when you look at the schedule and you got a bunch of new pieces and you got questions on both lines of scrimmage and you got a brand new quarterback, the ceiling is limited. Let's just put it that way, okay? And last year was a big year for Gamecocks football because I think it was a year where, okay, you went 8-4 in 2022. You had the big wins over Tennessee and Clemson. Last year was a massive year for, if you won 8 games again, I think all of a sudden South Carolina football has started to look at as, okay, 8 wins is the new floor for this program. This program has taken a massive step forward. Unfortunately, the damage that 5-7 did last year is South Carolina is still looked at, and in my opinion, still is a 5-7 or 6-6 program year in, year out. That's what they are, okay? And so with a first-year quarterback, starting quarterback in Lenora Sellers, questions on both lines of scrimmage, question marks abound across the football team, and with the schedule especially, guys, I think 7-5 is the ceiling for this football team, right? You got 4 kick-in wins on the schedule, or you should. Old Dominion, Akron, Wofford, and Vandy. The question is, what do you do in your other 8 games? At Bama, at Oklahoma back-to-back is going to be extremely difficult. Ole Miss before that, going to be extremely difficult. LSU, extremely difficult. A&M is going to be really good. Missouri won 11 games last year. Clemson, who beat you last year at Williams-Brice Stadium, you got to go to their place, and I got this weird feeling Clemson's probably going to be improved. So, what does it all mean? I think best case scenario is 7-5. You win those 4 I said. You beat Kentucky. And then from there, where do the wins come? Maybe you beat Texas A&M again. Maybe you snap the streak finally against the Missouri. Maybe you upset an LSU. Maybe you upset Clemson at their place. But you got to be realistic when you're talking about how many of these, I don't even know if, I guess you can call them swing games, especially the ones at home, but you got to be realistic, guys. A lot of these are 70-30, 75-25 type of games in regards to it would be a big upset if the Gamecocks were to get the win. So 7-5, I think, is the realistic best case scenario for this football team in 2024. Now, let's talk worst case. Let's talk worst case. And after last year, guys, I wouldn't put anything past South Carolina. This is a team that almost lost to Jacksonville State a season ago. Okay? Let's keep that in mind. It was abysmal from start to finish. Worst case scenario would be assuming this. As high as everyone is on Lenora Sellers, he is a youngster. He is a first-year starting quarterback. Maybe the game's a little too quick for him. There's some growing pains there, which you'd probably expect, but the growing pains are more severe than folks realized. Playmakers don't step up at receiver. The offensive line is still an eyesore. South Carolina, for the millionth year in a row, still can't stop the run. And the defense picks up where they left off from the first 90% of the season last year, and they are just simply put not very good. Also, worst case scenario would be assuming Shane Beamer continues his antics at the podium, and it is a week in, week out distraction. I mean, last year, guys, it was one thing after another. From the chain gang eating hot dogs to kicking a locker and breaking his foot or whatever he did to you name it. Getting teary-eyed in post-game pressers. It was just something week after week after week after week. And I don't know, did it hurt the football team? I don't know, but it certainly didn't help win games. So, worst case scenario for South Carolina football this season, I've got 4-8. And again, this is not a prediction. This is the worst case. Worst case scenario. Even in a worst case situation, I think you're beating Old Dominion, you're beating Akron, you're beating Wofford. You should beat Vandy. But hey, guys, streaks are meant to be broken. And at some point, I think it's been 15 years now Some point, Vandy's going to get South Carolina. Is it this year? I'm not going to pick it. I don't know, but it's going to happen at some point, right? But there's going to be a fourth win in there somewhere. They're not just going to be dead all season long. There's going to be a fourth win. Could South Carolina go 0-8 in those other games? I don't think it's likely, but is it possible? I mean, sure. They're going to be an underdog in every game. South Carolina, realistically, is going to be an underdog in every single game outside of the four that I mentioned that should be kicking wins. So, while it's not likely, if Lenoris Sellers does not play well, the offensive line still isn't very good, and the defense can't stop a nosebleed, there's your 4-8. So, my best case scenario for South Carolina football in 2024, 7-5, my worst case is 4-8. What do you see as the ceiling and the floor for Gamecocks football in year 4 of the Shane Beamer era? Guys, that's going to do it all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily: iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across social media and also our website, SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, guys, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.